Hello. So Matt and I are just watching this Rhett and Link episode called Discontinuing Snack Taste Tests. And at the very last of it, they tasted peanuts from an airline that was like 40 to 70 years old. Well, the airline's called PSA, so whenever they got discontinued. But then I posed a question of, because now they're trying to discontinue peanuts on airlines, they're even trying to take them out of schools, how often do people with peanut allergies go into shock in airlines or schools for people to actually consider taking peanuts out of those systems? And then Matt said he feels like the world is getting really soft. And then I said...
Well, the U.S.
Yeah, the U.S.
At least.
And then I said this would make a really great video. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. Because we were talking about some really good points, and I think it's a really good thing to talk about. You know, it's like...
I remember my dad and my uncle talking about how everything was too safe when they were talking about it. Not too safe, but things have gotten way safer. Like, they make the caps on pill bottles really hard to open, and gas cans and stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, back in my day we could just unscrew the cap and drink the whole thing. You know, and I could see like certain precautions, but there is a point where it's just like becoming too much. And one thing I was mentioning was you don't realize how, like, we need protection from ourselves, because as a society I feel like we're getting not dumber. What did you say? It was like...
Well, we're lacking in critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
I think, you know, as a society, because we're advancing so fast, right? We're moving at such a fast pace, and we're moving to a point where everything is basically handed to us. You know, like back in the days, even like 60s, 70s, I mean, even I will say 90s too. You know, like, I think right before the computer...
Just every year it's more.
Internet took off, like, the more society advances and the more easier life gets for people, the less people have to think about how to survive. And I think it takes away that creativity and the critical thinking skills in order to, you know, just to think critically.
One of the things that I really enjoyed when we were traveling Southeast Asia, and specifically Thailand, I remember like seeing this and recognizing this, was when you go to a country like that, and you see how they live, you don't realize, even though America is like the most free country in the world, and it's free in many ways, but you don't realize how much freedom is actually stripped from you until you go to a country like that. Now, obviously they're not as free in different ways, right? Like, but I mean, like, regulation wise, regulation, safety, you know, because like in America, you want to get a driver's license or you want to drive a car, or you want to start a business, a commercial building, or have an apartment complex. There's regulations you have to follow to do all those things, whether it's safety regulation, and all of it is just protecting that person and the other person from getting hurt, as well as preventing lawsuits. And because suing is it's like a national sport in America, all these rules and regulations become in place, because if they're not there, there's lawsuits, and then people lose a bunch of money. So it just gets more restricted and more restricted and more restricted over time. And then when you go to Thailand, it's freeing in a way, because you see people who need to just get somewhere are just driving a car. And, you know, there's traffic and stuff. Like, if there's a car in the way, they just go around. Whether it's on the sidewalk, whether it's running the light, whether it's, you know, somewhere that a car shouldn't go, they just do it because they need to just get from point A to point B.
Well, I don't really know what the Thailand regulate. I'm sure they have regulations.
The point is, you see the power lines and stuff, and they're not safe.
I remember.
You know, they run through puddles of water, and
they're not safe.
I remember we were walking across
overpass.
There was an overpass.
Yeah, I have a picture
over
of it
a
with
street,
my friend.
And right next to the overpass, there's the power line, and it's not just a nice, neatly woven power line. It's like draped across the overpass, and there's these big wires that I'm sure are pulling like 500 to 1,000 volts. They're like the main power grid power. Yeah. And you just, as you walk across the bridge, you could use it as railing, and it's just...
It was crazy. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should do that stuff in America, but it does show how many restrictions have been put into place in America.
I mean, I will even go as far... Maybe Thailand and Southeast Asia is kind of extreme in this, because they're kind of a little more third worldy.
It's just...
But
it's an extreme example, but it's something...
Well... Let's look at it from a little bit more like a first world to first world. Japan is a great example. You've seen the playground structures here in Japan. A lot of those playground structures would not be possible in the States because of the regulations America has placed. Like, somebody is going to sue somebody for those playground structures if their kid skims their knee. But in Japan, there's a lot of those things where, there's dilapidated,
There's dilapidated buildings everywhere.
Yeah, dilapidated buildings. There's, old castle ruins that would probably be fenced off and said, please, nobody is allowed to enter. But we could just walk to it and walk around it and clamber around it.
Well, even the parks around here, they're not closed to the public. And they have stepping stones and stuff that are thousands of years old. Right?
In fact, remember when we went to, when we walked Sueyoshi down to that temple shrine thing?
Yeah.
That stairway down was this railing that looked like it was going to fall off. Those stairs were definitely not regulatory in the United States.
There's a lot of stairs without railing and stuff.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
So it's like, I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I'm saying, I think it makes you it makes you a lot more cautious. It makes you think. And I think when you make things too soft, too safe, it almost makes you
it just gets worse.
Yeah.
I think it's a downward spiral, because if you think about it this way, it's if someone gets hurt on your property or something like that. In Japan, I'll compare it to Japan because first world country. In Japan, it's, they'll think about you and try and help you and stuff, but you're definitely not worried about losing a bunch of money. You're definitely not worried about getting a lawsuit.
Fact, the reason suing is very uncommon in Japan is because, if there is any kind of disagreement, governments typically don't get involved if it's a private sector matter. They say, even police officers rarely get involved. If there's a dispute between neighbors, that is them to try to figure out how to fix it. And unless it's a really bad thing, governments and authorities don't get involved. I don't know, it's just I think about that movie Idiocracy. I feel like eventually we're not too far off from getting Kool-Aid from tap water.
Yeah.
It's people make fun of that movie and compare it to the society, our current society going in that direction, but I don't feel like it's that far off from reality. Especially if we continue in the trajectory of just being so catered to in society. We're catered. And it's kind of hard because, how do we continue pushing advances in technology without making life that easy and accessible for people?
Yeah, there's a lot of
there's a balance
red tape and restrictions with a lot of things. Another thing is, with everything going on in the world, there's so much red tape that the medical industry has to get through to do anything, that it's just prolonging something.
It's very interesting. I was just thinking about that.
I don't know much about the medical stuff, but I think a lot of it is restricted by red tape. And then there's other countries that are just trying all kinds of, that may not be the best tactic, but other third world countries are just trying all kinds of shit
to try to solve the issue.
Yeah, they're just, it's not regulated or anything. It's just let's try this.
I'm sure they're regulated, but not as...
In a way.
I think America is probably one of the most regulated countries.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're the most sue happy.
Sue happy. I think, honestly, I hate to say the word, but probably becoming one of the softest.
You know, I remember talking to someone from somewhere in Europe, and I was like, yeah, everybody sues everybody in America. Or I don't know, we were talking about something, and I was like, well, you can't do that because, you know, people will sue. And, like, they didn't even know what suing was. They're like, what is that? I'm like, it's when you ask for money from someone because something happened. And they're like, why would you do that?
So I'm watching this lady, and I think everyone should watch her channel. If I remember it, I'll link it down below. But her name is Yoonmi Park, and she is a North Korean defector. And she talks about a lot of differences, because she lives in Boston, and she talks about a lot of her comparative differences between her life in North Korea and her life in America. And I feel like, just from experience of talking to people and meeting people throughout my life, I feel like people who have gone through hardships in their life tend to have more of, I would say, critical thinking, because you have to, and if you go through hardships and struggles, you have to figure out, like I said, how to survive in life, right?
I think to grow as a human being,
there has to be
you
struggles.
have to be figuring stuff out. Struggle.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be struggling, but you have to encounter problems, because otherwise you're not going to get better at whatever it is you're trying to do if you don't figure out how to solve and come up with solutions for that thing, you know?
Just generally in America, how much easier life has gotten because of technology, and just how sheltered the society is becoming. And you can see that, especially when you travel outside of the US. Like, it's probably hard to see when you're in it, because you feel like this is the struggle, you know. But if you travel outside of the US and you look back into the country, you realize how much more sheltered Americans are, and soft the society. Like, I'm not saying every American, but it's becoming more and more as the generation progresses.
You can't just, like, vacation somewhere. I think you need to spend time somewhere else and really learn how that country works. I don't think it's a good idea to protect people
that much
from problems or from encountering issues, because people become soft, and then
I mean, there is a fine balance between really struggling.
Yeah,
you know?
It's cool to have conveniences.
Yeah.
But the more used to it you get, the less you're growing as a person. And then when those things are taken away, you have no... This isn't actually just America anymore. This is like people that get taken care of or given things. You know, they ultimately don't know how to fend for themselves as much as people who have had to figure stuff out.
I mean, even just in my example, you know, like when we were starting YouTube and all this, like, businesses, I feel like I made a video once titled, I want my minute rice done in 30 seconds. And it's like, that's because society's turning that way, you know, like everything is like fast paced, like I get everything now. And the more I get used to that, the more, like, when I want to build something like a business or a YouTube channel, if I'm not getting results fast enough, the more I get disheartened. But you have to realize all of this take time. Like, there has to be strength in just patience, right? And I think that is something that we're losing as time goes on, because we're so used to things happening for us now.
I think we're getting a lot better at it.
Well, it's a skill we've had to develop.
Yeah.
We're actually, like, reverting back to developing skills pre-softening of society. You know what I mean?
This YouTube is a good example. Like, you see YouTube, and there's a lot of successful YouTubers on YouTube, but when you compare them to the amount of people that want to do YouTube or are trying to do YouTube, it's a very small amount of people that are actually successful on YouTube. Because most people don't want to put in the work, and they don't want to encounter the problems and figuring out the obstacles and doing the consistency, doing it every day, because everything else is instant and convenient. The people that truly persist in not just YouTube, anything in life, are the people that have faced the you know, one of sorry, I'm ranting, but this is another good example of the more you do something, the easier they get, to a point where eventually it no longer even becomes an issue. And this happens on a major scale, but to make it easy to understand, this happens on a very small scale too. Like, I have a friend, and I have a couple friends actually, that don't drive, don't know how to drive, or are afraid to drive. And to get behind the wheel of a car is such a huge obstacle for them. It's so hard for them to do. For people who just drive a car, drive every day, they don't even think of it as an obstacle. They just get in the car and drive. Like, it's not something you even think about at that point. And it happens at a high level too, right? Like, I don't know, an investor or something, they invest X amount of, they have no hesitation in doing the work required to, I don't know, but you know what I mean. Versus other people, it becomes a big obstacle, right?
Yeah.
I guess YouTube's a good example where at this point it's not as much of a hesitation to just do a video every day for you. It's not like, it's not like a huge obstacle you got to overcome because you've already done it for 300 days in a row. So it happens with everything.
Anyways, I just thought that was a really interesting topic, and I wanted to share it with you guys and hear your opinions. So please let me know in the comment section below your thoughts.
Are we too soft?
Are we too soft? Are we becoming our critical thinking skills becoming less and less? Let us know. Love you guys so much. I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace. Bye.